So I'll be speaking mostly about radiation oncology, when Cobalt is held hostage, supporting radiation oncology in Ukraine, and what in particular Help Ukraine group did to support radiation oncology. I have no conflicts of interest. As Arman and Daria mentioned, cancer is the second main cause of death in Ukraine, with the high rate of avoidable death. And there are lots of issues with the current oncology challenges in Ukraine, high oncology morbidity compared to other EU countries, the highest rate in Europe, also very high mortality rates. Cancers are mostly diagnosed in late stages, stage 3 and 4. And there are abundant issues with diagnostics and treatment, unavailability of radiotherapy machines, old Cobalt equipment, lack of modern PET-CT scanners, and insufficient level and access to early diagnostics, low level public awareness. But not only that, that's not only resources, but also staffing and training of the staff that's really lacking. In terms of radiation oncology, if you don't know, it's one of the main branches of cancer care. It treats approximately 50% of all cancer patients, but unfortunately in Ukraine, only 36% of cancer patients receive radiotherapy, and that's because of lack of modern equipment. So as you can see here on this map, Ukraine has only 1.7 MV external beam radiotherapy machines per million population. If you compare it to one of the lowest in Europe, if you compare it to other neighboring countries, for example, Poland or Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, they have a factor of 2.5 more machines, and in US a factor of 6.5 more machines. So definitely Ukraine is lacking resources. How is radiation oncology affected by the war? So to answer these questions, we conducted a mixed method cross-sectional study integrating Help Ukraine Group nationwide structured survey of radiation oncology department leadership to assess infrastructure, staffing, challenges, and needs this year. And also we analyzed IAEA DIRAC database conducted by Grigoriev Institute for 4 years. We also added WHO survey effect of the war cancer care in Ukraine that was conducted in May 2022. So according to WHO survey, it found that together with the screening, radiation therapy endured the most disruptions in cancer care, and that's because lack of equipment, but also inability to operate this equipment during bombing, and inability to exchange the sources for approximately a year throughout the war. In the first 3 months of war, 2 radiotherapy departments became occupied. All radiotherapy departments were not operational on average 26 days. But amazingly, 16 radiotherapy departments continued treating despite the war without any interruptions. And what we found, the patient volume decreased on average around 30%. Key select oblasts were seeing largest fluctuations in volume, for example, 70%, seeing increased decrease of volume plus minus 50%. And the regions that were closest to the front line experienced the highest differences in their patient volume, decrease in patient volume. And chemotherapy was able to absorb this capacity. So the centers in central Ukraine, western Ukraine had this great absorptive capacity. They were able to treat chemotherapy patients, but unfortunately with radiotherapy, this absorptive capacity was minimal because, again, lack of radiotherapy machines and also inability to operate the equipment. And what are the challenges in radiotherapy centers and equipment availability? So one of the biggest problems is still presence of Cobalt-60 machines. And so compared to US got rid of all the Cobalts in 1970s. So 1/3 of the centers in Ukraine actually still have Cobalt-60 machines, and they behind basically 55 years compared to the US. But let's look at this timeline. So before Russian invasion in 2014, the ratio between Cobalt and Linux were 80% to 20% after 2014 invasion. Unfortunately, Ukraine lost control of many machines because they were located in the more developed Donbas region and Crimea. And before 2022 invasion, there were 16 linear accelerators installed, and the Ministry of Health was planning to install more linear accelerators, but unfortunately Russia invaded, and almost all radiotherapy departments stopped operations. 2 of them became occupied, so total occupied now 12. You could see them in red, and 1 department got bombed in Kherson and, during Christmas 2024. But amazingly, and this is quite incredible, this is also the work of Ministry of Health, and I would like to commend them for their amazing work. They purchased 21 linear accelerators, and since the full-scale invasion, 24 linear accelerators were installed in Ukraine, and 4 new radiotherapy centers opened. So radiotherapy is currently going through renaissance, rebirth, and this is quite amazing and incredible during the war. And the first time in the history of Ukraine, there are more linear accelerators than Cobalt machines. And why is Cobalt such a big issue? The issue is that most of these Cobalt machines were procured in Russia. So imagine, as sources decay, they will not be able to be replaced. So 1/3 of all radiotherapy equipment in Ukraine would just stop operating, and that can be really catastrophic. And you could see the age of the equipment as well, right? So they are really aging old machines. As I mentioned, Ministry of Health really stepped up, and they recognized this acute problem that can be catastrophic for Ukraine. There's also brachytherapy equipment that's really aging, and mostly Cobalt-60, and that's something that Ministry of Health has not paid attention yet, but we are hoping that since Vasily is here, maybe that would be heard. So what about changes in staffing and patient volume? So according to the DRAC database, there's a decline in radiation oncologists, radiation therapists, but a very hopeful increase of medical physicists, and that's because linear accelerators are coming to the clinics, so there is a need for more trained technical staff to operate those. And so you could see there's a lot of migration of the staffs throughout Ukraine, especially those regions close to the war zone. They were affected the most. And when we surveyed the heads of department, this enormous lack of medical physicists. So that's a really a critical problem in Ukraine. Around 41% of medical physicists are lacking right now. There's also a problem with RTTs, radiation oncologists, and nurses. But let's look at the patient volume. According to DRAC database, again, in 2022, radiotherapy volume decreased by approximately 8%. So that's the first year of the war, full-scale invasion. In 2023, next year, patient volume increased to pre-invasion levels. This is just incredible. People doing amazing things. They are very resilient. They're going to work despite the bombing and treating their patients, despite the lack of equipment, despite the lack of, despite the issues with source exchanges. They are able to manage to treat the same amount of volume they treated before the war. So this is really commendable. And in 2024, last year, patient volume increased even, but 9%. So that's something that it's quite incredible to see. But let's look at the patient waiting time. When you replace Cobalt-60 machine that could treat many, many patients, very simple treatment, with lots of toxicity that nobody is measuring, unfortunately, with the linear accelerator, that's much more precise treatment, less toxicity, but it takes more time to develop these plans. So that's why patient volume is increased quite a bit currently compared to pre-war. We also asked them, how did you adapt to war? How did you manage to improve capacity during the war? So they mostly adopted shorter treatment regimens, and that's very commendable. We are training them to switch to more hypofractionated regimes. They use telemedicine, prioritize urgent cases, extending working hours. So how are we helping? We formed the Help Ukraine group. So here you could see the health practitioners across the US, Australia, and also half of them are Ukrainians. So we had the goal in the beginning to support all cancer centers in Ukraine, but then we focus mostly on radiation oncology because most of us are radiation oncology specialists. So what did we do? We advocated for support for Ukraine, increase awareness about cancer needs in Ukraine by publishing manuscripts. We published now 16 manuscripts and also various publications, newspapers. We advocated for support for Ukraine at the conferences, organizing sessions. So far we organized 38 sessions or presentations at various conferences. We organized Ukrainian delegations at conferences in radiation oncology, ISTRO, ASTRO. We also held a workshop with IAEA last year to support Ukrainian radiotherapy. We provided disposable devices, medical equipment with the help of Civco, Orfit, QFix, and Nova Ukraine helped us very kindly to ship this equipment to Ukraine, to 10 cancer centers. We also support radiotherapy centers with AI software, so that helps them speed up the time it takes to manually contour all the critical organs. And so Limbus AI donated their equipment, so we provided it to 20 cancer centers in Ukraine. We also collaborated with other vendors. Varian Research, they donated treatment planning system stations to improve capacity in Ukraine. We provided 68 observerships abroad of different specialties, cancer specialties, majority of them radiation oncologists, medical physicists. This year, we also sent the teams of 3 radiation oncologists, medical physicists, plus RTT to Sweden to observe. And that's been very effective. So these are the amazing institutions that provided their hosting and support for these observerships. We received grants from UICC. We also collaborated with GMKA on this, and we received some support from Swedish Ministry of Health, and now Department of Energy, US Department of Energy, and PNNL Lab to support all of this. So here you could see observerships for 12 radiation oncologists and physicists in the US. Some of them were also sponsored by Nova Ukraine, so thank you so much, Nova. And we put emphasis on training the trainers because we want to create a sustainable model so they can progress. So we train the leaders in the field. When they come back, they train others. They participate in virtual courses. They do the workshops. So here you could see how facilitated, translated, organized 15 virtual courses in radiation oncology for 3 different specialties. We also organized 25 on-site training courses. They are currently conducted in Ukraine. Actually, one is finishing right now. We are translating 3 books because currently there is no modern literature in Ukrainian, and that's something that's really needed. This year, OncoHub is organizing a conference, Up to Date 6.0 with ESMO, so HUG is actively participating. We created the whole day of conference talks. There was keynotes from ASTRO president, ISTRO president, and there will be 160 radiation oncologists, medical physicists. For the first time, we are inviting radiation therapists. So we really want to make this really a team effort, create this collaboration between specialties, develop all specialties, not just concentrate on doctors. So overall, we advocated through publications, conference presentations, provided disposable devices, software, automation tool, and 15 virtual, 25 on-site training courses, and 68 observerships abroad. Also, Natalka Sukhoverska is conducting very successful mentorship program for those sites that are transitioning from Cobalt 60 to IMRT. What are our plans for next year? We have support from Swedish government, Swedish Ministry of Health, SweCare, and also, as I mentioned, PNNL and the US Department of Energy to continue our work, 52 observerships in Europe. We're conducting 16 research projects, currently working on them, and mentorship from Australia, translating books, more virtual courses, practical on-site workshops, and we're collaborating with manufacturers for provision of more equipment. We developed this dashboard of all radiotherapy centers in Ukraine. We asked them, what do you actually need? What type of support? And we providing that specific support to each center. So we're working with them individually to make sure that they can really transition, especially those sites you could see in the red that are transitioning from Cobalt 60 to linear accelerators. Thank you so much for your attention. I would like to thank the team and also all the sponsors, all the collaborators. Without them, this work would not be possible. Thank you. Slava Ukraini!